What's up with it, y'all? Y'all know what it is. Another episode of Tapp'd In. I'm Corey Wolf.
I'm Brandon Walton.
We got a special guest today, y'all. We're gonna talk about mental health. We got a good friend of mine up in here, Shantae Webb, and we're gonna talk about mental health today. We're gonna give y'all some breakdown on how we deal with it, how all of us deal with it, how people deal with it who have kids who are going through it. We're gonna give y'all a whole nine. So we thank you first of all for giving us this time.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Taking your time out to do this. You know, we caught you at a time where you hooking it up.
Yeah, she hooking it up in there.
You know what I'm saying? Putting that island food together and stuff.
Trying to get the to-go box.
Right. Yeah, for real though. But I just, you know, like I said when we first encountered each other, you know, when you was talking about the mental health thing, it kind of brought me back to some stuff that I dealt with mental health with my family and things like that. And I was just telling him in 2018, my sister, she suffered from schizophrenia. It don't even seem that, like that wasn't even long ago if you think about it. It wasn't that long ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago. But she stepped out into the highway, you know what I'm saying? I think it was like 190 something.
That's a busy highway too.
And she got hit. But the crazy thing was, the girl that hit her was fresh out of high school, so it was like damages from both sides of it.
It just hurt mental health when it started.
It's like another mental health issue, so she's probably getting some type of help for that as well. So, you know what I mean? So I was telling them about that, how it's hard when you're dealing with that type of stuff, those type of situations. But I just kind of wanted to key in with you and, you know, you tell us a little bit about what you know about mental health, you know, what you went to school for, what you know, your situation as far as that.
So for me personally, I'm a mental health major. Actually, I went to school for psychology and sociology.
Okay.
And I have 2 degrees, one for mental health and addiction and one for human services and science. So what that is a little bit of everything. I can kind of deal with adults and kids. There's the population, I think the percentage, I'm not sure exactly what the percentage is, but it's very low. I think initially when I had started, it was about 5% out of 100 of us that have they call dual diagnoses counselors. So that means you can deal with people with addiction problems as well as mental health problems. Most counselors do one or the other because it's a lot, you know, it's a lot. But I just decided I wanted to do a little bit of both personally because with my family, a lot of my family, they have, you know, drug addictions or alcohol problems or whatever it is, whatever their choice of drug is. And so I just wanted to really understand them, but I also just experiencing it in my own household with my children, with myself, my parents. My mom growing up, you know, it was something that you don't talk about. You know, it's that private business.
Under the rug, we sweep it under.
That's private business. You don't talk about that. You keep your head up and you keep going. You act like nothing didn't happen. And then as I became a parent myself, very young, I was 15 when I first got pregnant with my daughter, 16, just about to be 16 when I gave birth to my daughter. So for me, that was a whirlwind of stuff that I just wasn't prepared for. You know, a kid having a kid, you just don't know.
So that played on your mental a lot as well.
That played on my mental a lot. It played on our family dynamic a lot. My mother was like completely disappointed and heartbroken and didn't know how to deal with it. So her initial go-to was, hey, pack your stuff, you out of here, because you have siblings, you have other little kids looking at you, and that's not okay. And if I let it be okay for you, then they can do the same. So I understood, but the emotional damage that did over top of already. I'm adopted. My mother she's actually my aunt, so I'm still adopted into the same family, but you know, but it still plays a lot. So I had already had a lot of emotional baggage that I was dealing with, a lot of family generational curses and things like that I was already dealing with. My biological mother also suffers really bad. She, like your sister, has schizophrenia. She's multiple personality disorder, bipolar. She is just all over.
Yeah, see, I deal with that, but see, like, and you know, that stems, it goes from the bloodline, because even my mom suffered from that to an extent. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I'm like, we talked about it before, but it's like It starts from a bloodline through slavery and
Yes.
trauma and all that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The women seeing men getting hung and seeing all these type of things happen. That's where it starts
Absolutely.
from. And then that fear gene from seeing all that, that derives in the DNA of the women as it goes on and past
Absolutely.
time.
So
And I
mental
think that's
health,
how all that comes from.
That's exactly what it is. Mental health, most of our mental health diseases and diagnoses they're hereditary.
Yeah.
So they're passed down from somewhere, one
Some
gene
type of
or
trauma.
another,
Yeah.
whether it was your mother's side or your father's side, it doesn't matter, but it's somewhere in your line. So it's not, some of us do sometimes experience something. We may not have had the gene, but you experience something and then you end up with PTSD,
Yeah.
which causes a whole whirlwind of
That's a mental thing.
different stuff. Exactly. So it comes from one place or another. You either have to experience some type of trauma to get it, or it's in your gene already. So some of it is really inevitable. We just try to do what you can to make sure that your mind is in a healthy place, and you just keep going that way. But we don't speak about it, especially us. Us. We don't speak about that kind of stuff. That's not what we do. Our families, you didn't get brought up like that. No, I didn't. My mom didn't.
We didn't.
Yeah.
My mom didn't, and I'm very much so like my mother. I cry by myself. I don't make sure my kids don't see me, make sure they don't hear me, so they don't know.
Get back out there.
Right, we
Somebody
just
count
keep
on you.
going.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But when I have my children, and I noticed certain things in my kids, I had to step back a little bit, because I was remembering and seeing it in them. I was remembering it in myself, and remembering how I felt having to keep it closed in and not being able to talk to anybody and not being able to express that to anyone, and being afraid, really
Right.
being afraid of, I don't want them to think I'm crazy. I don't want them to think I'm trying to start trouble. I don't want them to think I'm a bad kid.
Right.
You understand? So when I started to really take a step back and look at my kids and try to figure out what the heck is going on, they being bizarre right now. That's when I said, okay, I need to figure out what it is. And the only way for me to figure out what it is to really study it. Anything you want to learn, all you got to do is repetition. Study it and learn it, and then you know. That's what pushed me into the mental health field. Wanting to be able to understand my kids, wanting to be able to understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I was having a lot of abandonment feelings, having a lot of animosity built up, and I was angry. Angry at the world when I really shouldn't have been. I really shouldn't have been angry with anybody, because in a way, it was a blessing in disguise. And I honestly and truly believe that everything happens for a reason. God makes no mistakes. To me, in my mind and my heart, that's how I feel. And I carry that with me always. I don't know what the reason is, but I do believe that everything happens for a reason. There are no coincidences. Things happen with a purpose. For whatever reason, whatever it is, it's for a reason. So going to school for that, thank God I did, because just as I was finishing up and really starting to understand, my oldest daughter just started doing a whole bunch of stuff, and she was all over the place. And I didn't understand why, but I had to again look at my situation. Her dad was missing. We were moving around. I had another baby. We moved to another country.
Right.
So it was a lot for her. She didn't know. And then pulling her away from the only family that she knew traumatized her. It traumatized her. It traumatized my mom. There's the whole I traumatized myself, because I really didn't want to go. But when you're 19 with 2 kids and you get married, to me in my head already, I was going to hell, because I had a baby out of wedlock. So now the second one, I need to be married. I'm not fitting it.
At least that's what they say.
That's what they say. But I didn't want a one-way ticket. I was trying to have an entrance in and out. Return slip.
I feel where you're coming from, because trauma travels, man. Trauma travels. And what I mean by that is, when you experience something or you've been through something, especially, like us, black people, black African American people. I'm only saying African American because I know people understand that. They really Israelites and indigenous people and stuff like that. But anyways, so it travels, man, because it's like, no matter the situation or whatever, once you get some type of situation where you're traumatized, no matter where you go, you can't run from that. That trauma won't stick with you no matter where you go. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like our people, we're the most traumatized. Here in America, for sure, we're the most traumatized when it comes to certain things. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's always a lot of men with PTSD, a lot of women with depression. depression, and you know, you got a lot of suicide rates or
It's a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
People
is.
don't know what it is, and they just feel like, you know, I'm having a rough day today, or you know, I'm just hanging out and I'm partying, and I'm just drinking because it makes me feel good. The underlying issue is what they don't have control over. The underlying issue is what they don't know, because the unknown. You know what I mean? You just don't know. You can't. If you didn't know mental health, you wouldn't be able to walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, I suffer with depression." Unless somebody would have told me that years ago, I'd be like, "What are you talking about? I'm absolutely fine. I do what I gotta do. I go to school. I work. I this. I thought I take care of my kids. They good. They not beat." But then there's always that one situation that you go, "Oh shoot," and it'd be a life-altering situation. Sometimes it's a lot worse for others than it is. For me, I was already on my last kid, actually, my son. My last one, and he just kept crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. I was like, what the heck? I know what I'm doing. I done had all these other babies, you know. What am I done changed him and fed him, and he just kept crying. And it got to a point where I was so overwhelmed with his crying, and I put a pillow over his face.
Oh, wow.
And he was still like struggling. Like he was struggling and fighting with me and struggling, you know, because he's so small, but I just wanted him to stop. And I don't know what happened. It's like you have the devil and an angel on your arm, and all of a sudden, it was like I just snapped out of it and came to him and was like, oh shoot. After that, the next day, I was like, somebody need to do something. Call the doctor right away, because I didn't understand what was going on. And I was like, I would never be able to live with myself knowing that one of my children are not here because of me. That I personally inflicted their, you know, I caused their death. I did that intentionally. That was my first time ever experiencing anything like that.
You had a breakdown.
And I broke, and I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know what happened. And then they were talking about this, you know, postpartum stuff. And I was like, I done had all these kids. I'm not. And sure enough, there was a lot of life happening at that point too. And I had to really take myself back when I went to the doctor, and they were like, well, what was going on before that, and what happened with this, and what happened with that, never realizing, you know, that I myself was already suffering with anxiety and depression already for years. By this point, you know, I done had a baby as a teenager, I done been kicked out, I done had this situation happen, that situation happen, and I just had to sit and remember. And then I remember at one point when I just had my two oldest children, I was in a shelter. And it wasn't a bad shelter. You know, people, you say shelter, people go, oh my God. It actually was a really good shelter. I had my own apartments. It was safe. We had security. They had their own room. I had my own room, kitchen, living room. It was real homey, real safe. But I remember one day, just feeling super overwhelmed, and I just started crying, uncontrollably crying. Nothing happened. We weren't doing anything. I was cooking dinner, had just gotten my kids bathed and getting them ready to have to give them dinner and put them in the bed.
Part of it was an anxiety attack?
You know, it was actually a panic attack, a full-blown panic attack, but I didn't know anything about it.
I got a cousin that called me one time, and she was breathing hard. She was like, I think I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah, I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't maneuver myself. I couldn't stop it. I took a shower, put my head under the water. I did a whole lot of things to try and settle and calm it, and I just could not do it. And went to the doctor, the same thing. You know, you're really stressed out. My blood pressure was really high. I thought I was legitimately having a heart attack. It wasn't that. It was just a panic attack. And from there on, then that happened with my son, and I was like, oh no, we need to fix this somewhere. Something need to happen. I need a counselor. I need this, I need that. But I was very optimistic about medication. You know, for us, like real quick, let me throw you a prescription, and that prescription is supposed to fix everything. And it doesn't, especially if you don't know why you're taking it. You don't know what the side effects of it are, and how's it really gonna.
There's too many natural ways to do it. Like
There are. I mean,
there's some natural ways. There's an app I'm gonna actually tell you about. You know, y'all check out the Herb Crow. Dr. Tony Nora just came out with. Y'all check that out if y'all haven't checked it out yet. It's in the App Store. You will find it. Herb Crow. You know, it's sometimes, you know, and it's crazy because the way we was talking earlier. We was talking about how it's just full circle with mental health, everything, relationships, friends, just life, dealing with people on your job, just everything. And the one thing that's in the center of all of it that can I think have a good or bad effect on it is sometimes what we eat.
What you eat, a lot of stuff that we eat alters it.
It's hard not to eat right all
Your
the time though.
sleep
You know what I'm saying?
patterns alter it. What you're eating alter it. How you end your night. How you start your day. A person's mindset really. What you speak out your mouth is real powerful, and a lot of people don't understand that too. When you talk and you say certain things, you know, you set the tone. You set it. You put it in the atmosphere. You determine how your day goes. I tell my kids that all the time. You know, if you say, okay, I'm going to have a good day today, who am I to say you're not going to have a good day?
Yeah.
That's how you feel. That's what you want to do. That's what's going to happen.
Your brother
You know?
gonna shoot that right back out to you.
That's right. So if you speak positivity and you speak, you know, you speak it into existence, then that's all you have to take in. But it is a lot of what you eat and what we drink and what they're putting in our bodies, immunizations, this, that, and don't get me wrong. You know, my kids are they have all of their immunizations and stuff like that, just for my own personal reasoning and traveling out of the country and stuff like that. And there are some, I personally like to do things naturally. However, when you're dealing with people with mental health issues, when they get to a certain point, sometimes that natural route is not immediately effective, and they may need
Not
immediate.
immediately.
Right, it has to be in your system. You know, it's not the same effect as when they have a drug that goes into their system and like that. You know, it's not a magic drug that doesn't fix it, but it brings it baseline so that they're able to at least have the conversation, or they're able to at least experience. You know, so I'm not pro medication or against it. I'm just, you know, what works for that individual. I've been on medication myself, you know. I won't say that I haven't. I have. I'm personally one that will take medication for a certain amount of time, and then I wean myself off.
Yeah, well, I was listening to I listen to different podcasts and stuff a lot of times, but sometimes he'll tell me about a podcast, or he'll shoot me an episode about something I ain't watched. So this is one guy we check out all the time called 19 Keys. And he was talking about
19 Keys.
19 Keys. Shouts out to 19 Keys, man. So he was talking about on his podcast about how they working on some right now, like the hallucinant drugs, like the stuff like mushrooms and all that. They trying to make a medicine out of that can bring a person that's got mental health diagnosis like schizophrenia. It can bring them back to their right state of mind. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So the natural things can't work. Like I said, it's a process with all that.
Yeah, it is a process.
It's just a process.
I think people don't understand that mental health it's really just a delay in your synapses in your brain. In your brain there you have two different sides, and there's a little space in between that, and there's your mind transmits, your brain transmitters. When there's a gap in there and it can't transmit properly, that's what causes the issue. So it's not just, oh no, you're crazy. No, it's a problem with your synapses. And that sometimes can be chemically fixed, sometimes it can be fixed naturally. It's a lot like training. Like you go to therapy, you know, I broke my arm. And now I'm gonna have to go to therapy. I had surgery, now I have to go to therapy and learn how to use my arm again. You have to train your muscles to be able to do what it is that you want them to do again, because they forgot. They've had that trauma now, so now they can't, you know, it's not gonna work how you think, oh, well, no, I know how to do this. You do, but your nerves and your muscles and stuff don't remember that because they just got severed.
But muscle have memory, so it has to get
It has memory, so once it's able to repair itself, and it remembers, and you know, your blood flow gets back right and everything start going slowly but surely, it remembers, oh yeah, that's what this is for. So it's the same thing with your mind, the same thing with your brain, the same thing with your synapses. It just depends on, you know, how you want to do it. How much are you really willing to work to get it back? And then there are some of us that unfortunately, you know, you just at a point where you can't, and that's okay too. But you can be to your optimal. You know what I mean? It may not be how it was initially, but you can get to a point where it's good enough. Everybody, first of all, depression doesn't go away. It never. There's no treatment for it. There's no fix for it. You can't cure it. There's no cure for depression. Depression stays with you always. You will always be. It's just like an alcoholic. Oh, but I haven't drank in 15 years. But you're still an alcoholic. You will always be an alcoholic. No, I'm not using now. I'm not drinking now. But at any point in time, you could relapse. And it's the same thing for depression. You can be a functional person with depression. Obviously, look at me. But I mean, You just have to do the work to get there. And it's not always a good day. Every day is not always a good day. I'd be a liar if I told you that it was. It's not. And my stress levels, whatever, financial burdens, relationship issues, my kids, anything, anything can kind of, it's touch and go. Touch and go. So you really just have to figure out what works for you. You know what I mean? I might get to a point where I say, I haven't had medication for my anxiety and depression for years, but do I feel like sometimes I'm ready to kill somebody and I need to be back on something? Absolutely. I go to therapy every week, faithfully.
Right.
I don't miss my therapy sessions for nobody. I don't care what I'm doing. Yeah. I don't care where I gotta be.
Right.
I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care what it is. I don't miss my therapy sessions for anybody. So I make it my business to take that time for myself to do what needs to be done.
So this is something I think is key. Personally, I think it's key that helped me through a lot of the trauma and stuff that I went through in my lifetime. Just growing up, like even being able to talk to these young teens and not having nobody really talk to me. OGs did talk to me, some of them, but all of them weren't the best examples, but they did kind of show me, steer me in the right direction to an extent, you know what I'm saying? But I think what's another thing with the mental thing that's key is when you talk to other people, it's kind of like you're talking to yourself too. So it kind of helps you get through it too. Like we tell the person, man, you don't have to do this. Don't jump off the building, man. Like, don't kill yourself. But it might be the person that was thinking about suicide telling another person not to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Talk
saying?
yourself off.
So you talk yourself off the ledge at the same time you talk to them. So I think that's a thing that's key too, that helps out as well.
Those are the best teachers, right? The ones that have already experienced it, that have already been through it, that kind of know, you never want to say you know how someone is feeling, but you do. You know that feeling. You know that I don't want to be here anymore. You know that my mind is racing. I got 10,000 thoughts going through my head. It's so much that my mind is foggy. My head hurt. I'm tired. I just want to sleep. I don't want to do it anymore. You do know that. But you're not that person at that moment that's sitting there with a gun to their head. You're not that person that's sitting there at that moment pushing and rocking and I'm going to go, telling themselves that, it's nothing back here. No one cares. So although we have similar understandings to what they're feeling at that point because we've been there, done that, in that moment, it doesn't work the same, but you can, when you say, I've been there and it did feel like this, and you can literally, that's your testimony. So when you can testify to them and they can relate to you, not you relating to them, because it doesn't matter that you can relate to them.
Right.
What matters is that they are able to relate to you in that moment. When they can do that, that is what leaves that pathway for them to step back.
So it's like your past testimony is like they future test. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's like they future test. They just going through something that you already been through. You know what I'm saying? You're just showing them the way. I want to ask you a question though. So how does dealing with your children's mental health affect you as a mother?
My kids' mental health, how it affects me as a mother, it affects my day-to-day everything.
Right.
Because although I'm more than just a mom, I live and I exist for my kids. At one point, my children, having my children is what saved my life. Having my kids and having to be responsible for them and knowing that no one was ever going to take care of my kids like I take care of my kids, that was what pulled me back off the ledge, or that was what kept me from absolutely slow down. I never had the time to speed up. I remember I was 15.
That's true. But just think about how fast you would have went if you would have made it to 17 or 19 before that process happened.
I mean, like I said, everything happens for a reason. So I don't, I believe that I had my kids at that point in time because that's when God intended for me to have them. There was a reason for them to be there. Maybe it was to save my life. I don't know. But from myself, really, because we are our own worst critics. Nobody's pushing me to the ledge. If I walk to the ledge, I'm walking to the wedge at my own pace and my own will. Nobody's gonna force me to do anything. I've just always been that person. But your environment and your surroundings add to that. And it adds heavy, and a lot of people don't realize that, or they choose to be blindsided to that, and it causes a lot of the issues. But having children with mental health issues, I knew it was going to come up somewhere. Did I know it was going to go and smack me in the face? Absolutely not. But understanding the process, understanding what this mental health was and what affected it, and maybe, you know, what the different diseases were, it made it a lot easier for me to kind of maneuver my way through. But as a parent, it's different when you're sitting on the professional side and you're giving tips and, you know, you're doing therapy with a family, or you're sitting as a parent, when you're dealing with that one-on-one with your kids, it is not the same. You are heartbroken and torn and in pieces and devastated and stressed and not sleeping and not eating and losing hair because you don't know. And then it's a lot of the blame game. What did I do that made them feel like this? What did I do? Where did I go wrong? How did I mess up? Like, what did I do that was so bad that God gave me kids like this? It's nothing wrong with them. But as a parent, that's what your mind does. The mind is a powerful thing, boy, and it will play a trick on you real quick. So you got to be on your toes all the time. But when you have, for me, I had not one but two going through at the same time, over top of fighting cancer, over top of being a full-time student taking 9 classes, over top of having 3 other kids besides those 2 kids, you understand? Over top of being a newlywed too. So I'm like,
so you talking about daughters?
My 2 daughters, yes.
Oh, man.
But I have my son too. I have 3 girls actually.
I know about the daughters.
Oh man.
I think with them it's more heartfelt. Me as a father, you know, I understand, because it's like my daughters, they come to me for a lot. They talk to me about a lot of stuff. It's things that they'll talk to me about that they feel like they can't talk to their moms about because they feel like they might get that judgment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's different. It's kind of different. You know what I'm saying? The understanding, the reciprocity is different when you're done. It's just like a son going to a mother. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
The way they receive it going to be different. You know, it's like, what's it? It's daddy's.
Daddy's little girl,
mama's boy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like that, and it's like I can feel what they're going through, and it's like I say this all the time to Brandon. Like, I'm happy and I'm blessed and I'm thankful that God gave me my kids and brought them in this world, but at the same time, I cry for them within because I know the stuff that they have to face. When we not here and we can't be there to try to protect them like we want to, and even while we're here, we're not gonna always be able to protect them. Because I can protect them physically, but mentally and emotionally, that's something they're gonna have to be able to take hold of themselves. That part is what's hard. That's the hard part.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
My kids tell me all the time, especially my oldest girls, they're always like, Mama, you're so hard. You always, you know, every time you say something, I could do something, get all A's, and you say, that's great, you can do better, get an A+ next time. And I'm like, to them, it's me being rough and it's me being tough. And to me, in my mind, no, it's me telling you, you can always learn something else. You can always do better. If you stop here, then what about the rest? You know, what else is up for it? But they, same way, you know, but I've always been, for a long time, I had to be mommy and daddy. So when you say something to them, it go through one ear and out the other. Like, you didn't just say it. And then they turn around and talk to this person or that person and they say the same exact thing. And it'd be like they just had a new revelation. I've been saying this all along. But as they get older, you know, the Bible says to train them from the way that they go. And when they older, they shall not depart. So if I feel like if I teach them what I need them to know, and if I'm honest with them and I give them the tools that they need and I set them up for success, once I do that, it's up to them. No matter what happens, no matter where they go in the world, they'll always carry a piece of me. They'll always hear me in their ear. I know they do. One of my daughters lives on her own now, and all the time she's like, Mama, when you used to say what X, Y, and Z, and now I understand. And she's like, well, can I just come over for dinner? I'm like, I told you before. But I had to also get to a point where I just have to step back and allow them to live life. You know, because some of us just learn that way.
Sometimes, like, you know, not to cut you off, because you saying that just made me think about, like, something I was telling the kids the other day. You know, I'll be talking to them kids because I work with boys, man, teenage boys, you know what I'm saying, in the behavioral health field, and I talk about all the time, tell them all the time, like how sometimes life gonna have to teach you things. It's not gonna always be, I'm not gonna always be the one to tell you, or
Correct.
another staff member not gonna be tell you this, or your mom or whoever is close to you not gonna be able to always tell you this.
Right.
Sometimes life is gonna have to just teach you, and that's just part of it.
As a
Some things
parent,
God
that's hard, though.
He gotta fill that gap.
That's
you know
true.
what I'm saying? So
That's true.
it's not meant for me to tell you. Sometimes God gotta let you go through this certain experience
It makes
for
them
you to learn
stronger.
from that certain situation. Yeah.
It makes them stronger. It's not always what don't kill you just make you stronger.
That's
You
it.
become resistant, and that's really what they need. But that's why you set them up the way that you need to. At the end of the day, you do have some people that just learn the hard way. Unfortunately, I mean, I was one of those kids too. You know, my mom used to tell me when I had my first kid, she said, "God gonna teach you. Watch, you're gonna have all girls, and they gonna give you double what you gave me." And I was like, whatever. I had my first kid, it was a girl. I said, all right. That was just, you know, whatever. Then I had my second one, it was a girl. I said, oh no. Then I was like, all right, this is still cool. Then I had my third one, I was like, all right now. Slow down. No more. I got the lesson, please. But you gotta, sometimes life does just have to teach you. And it's a growing, it's almost like a growing pain. For both, for parents and for the child. My kids are still, 19, 16, my oldest girls mostly. My 13-year-old creeping up there, and she didn't get there quite yet. But my oldest two, they figuring it out and they learning it, and they not, maneuvering themselves horribly, but they're hitting some bumps that they just have to learn. That I can't give them the lesson. I can't. As much as I try to shield them.
Relationships,
All that
that's
stuff.
that's hard. Like I can't tell
First
you
of all,
why
I
this person
don't-
might not feel what you feel, or
Yeah.
why you might feel this way. You know what I mean? I can't. That part I can't control. I wish I could be like, okay, this is the person for you. This is, if I can create the man I
But do
want
you
my
know-
daughter to be with, I would.
But would
That's
that be the
something
person
I
that
gotta
your
do.
daughter wants to be with?
No, never.
You
see what I'm
creating
saying?
daddy's image.
You're right. And
You
you're right.
creating daddy's
And you're right.
image, and even
You're
though,
right. And that part, that's being narcissistic. I can't be like that.
but
But we all got a little bit of it in us, though.
keep in
We want to
mind,
control some
your
things.
daughter, if you are present and available and you're in your daughter's lives and you're active in your kids' lives, boy and girl, they will look for that. They will look for a man that's going to stand up to the standards that their dad
That's
stood up
exactly what
to.
it
I can
is.
tell you that for a fact because I do the same as a grown woman. I do the same thing.
That's a fact.
I look for what I saw my dad do. I look for, and I know, I'm not oblivious. I know my dad was doing what he wanted to do. My dad was a real OG. Like, nobody knew what he was doing until he died, and everybody showed up to the funeral and all that. The girls was around.
Who was you?
Right.
know what I'm saying?
But that's what I look for. My dad was very spot on when it came to family time. Whatever he was doing outside was what he was doing outside. It wasn't brought home. So you knew when he walked in that house at 7:30, 8 o'clock, that was it. Don't text his phone, don't call his phone because I'm at home with my family. This is my time for my family. If he came to a show or he came to whatever, they knew this is my family time. So you don't hold no weight here. You not finna page me or call me or text me or nothing because you're not getting a response. You understand?
Right.
So me growing up, no, I don't want a man that's gonna have multiple women. My dad did, but no, I don't want that. But I want the man that's gonna make sure that this is my family time. That's separated from my family. So you can't have that time.